So let's get started. I'm just going to jump right in. Thank you so much for being here. Nothing makes me more excited than being in the company of a group of artists. Even here where I just have my little chat box to see what you're up to. But welcome. I am going to talk to you for an hour about my framework for getting from financial chaos all the way to smashing the patriarchy or investing. Thank you so much for putting that in the chat, everybody. Cool. So I'm so excited to get started. I'm going to show you, this is my little disclaimer. This just means don't take any of this as tax advice or financial advice. You have to actually, do your due diligence. Don't make any huge decisions. This is education. I think you probably know that. All right. You're in the right place if you're a creator, and that's any kind of creator. So maybe you're a visual artist, maybe you're a writer, blogger, healer, entertainer, performance artist, maybe you do computers. If you feel confused about taxes and you're ready to work on it, I think that decision alone is a really big deal. If you have a bunch of different income streams, as I so often do, or you've gotten a big new grant, for example, maybe you want to make it official. Maybe you're ready to change, but money feels overwhelming. You're definitely in the right place if you are a professional artist or are trying to move from hobby to professional. And the last one is my favorite. If you feel lost, confused, dread, shame, and you're not even sure you want an accountant to look at your money for fear of being judged. I fully hear that. This is what you're going to learn today. First and foremost, you're going to learn my framework, which looks like this. You may have clicked a link and you printed this out. We're going to actually go through this today. If you didn't get that, Eileen is going to drop that in the chat for you, but don't worry about it. Don't sweat it because you can just freehand draw this. You're going to see that that's what I do. So you can just follow along if you have a piece of paper. So you're going to learn my framework for your own personal money revolution. And I really mean that. You're going to see that. You're going to learn the 2 keys to understanding how to get more tax deductions, the mindset shift creators need to be protected tax-wise, and 4 actionable steps you can take home today. I'm going to write them down and you'll get a follow-up email that repeats them that you can do today to start saving more money. All right. This training is not for you if you're a hobbyist, if you are unwilling to let go of a story that says you're bad with money, if you believe you're an exception to tax laws, do I really need to say that? If you want someone else to do the work for you, that's fine. Go ahead and pay a professional, hourly rate, $150 to $300 for someone like me. You're welcome to do that, but I do group training in general. So, and you're not in the right place if after an hour of free training, you're going to be upset that I want to tell you about my paid offering. And I just want to make really clear to everyone here that this represents me upholding a value I teach to my students, which is reciprocity and mutual value. So go ahead and be the generous artist that you are. I certainly give many things for free, and I love all the people in my orbit who read my newsletter, listen to my podcast interviews, follow my videos on tax tips on Instagram, and come to my free webinars. You can do that for the rest of your life. You never have to take out your credit card. That's fine. You make the decision when you're ready to go deeper with me. But if you're going to be upset that I want to talk about the fact that there is a limit to my free stuff, and at a point I want to, be have some payment for my hard work for many artists, and this isn't the right place for you. Okay, stay to the end because I will stay for up to 30 minutes to answer some questions. Okay, so who am I and why does it matter? I think you can tell that I'm an artist. That's me in my studio. 10 years ago, I was totally confused about my taxes. I had income from all different places, grants, painting sales, random commissions, freelance gig work, and I just had no idea how all of those different threads fit together. I was unable to find an accountant who would treat me with respect. I was not making enough money to live on. I was living in New York City, which is a very expensive place. I was equating self-worth with income. And I was suffering from pretty low self-esteem from many years in the art world, being kind of asked to give free labor all the time, never paid properly for what I did. And I was really starting to doubt whether my art career was sustainable over time or even worthwhile. I felt pretty powerless. But now, after many years of hard work, I have the power to say no. In other words, I have fuck you money. That's my way of saying I have a retirement fund that's pretty juicy and well-funded. I have clear money goals that reduce my anxiety. That's probably more important. I have calm well-being and self-respect. I have an active arts practice and a thriving business that helps support 6 workers. One of them, Eileen, is here on the chat and she can help you. If you need a link or anything, feel free to ask Eileen. But that's super exciting to me to actually be growing the economy to a degree where I can have paid employees. I think it's wonderful. And I've helped hundreds, probably at this point, thousands of creators like you get their money under control. My life really did change once I figured out my money and taxes. I began rejecting the toxic money myths. I know you know what I'm talking about, around the artist stereotype. That, you know, those ones that say that we're all flaky and we have trouble showing up on time and we're maybe bad at business, maybe bad at math, certainly bad at taxes. I don't really know any artists like that, do you? Artists are such hard workers. We do amazing things. I started saying no to unpaid and low respect opportunities. Anybody know what I'm talking about? I would love to see an amen, hallelujah in the chat if you've heard of that, if you know what I'm talking about. And I think the most important thing is that I reconnected with the sacred importance of what my creative work brings to the world, and also the community of creative people that I operate within, and the important work that they are doing. If I can do this, so can you. And I really mean that. I may be several steps further down this path, but you also can reverse your relationship with money. And I'm going to talk to you about how to do it. So these are a couple of things I want you to keep in mind as we go through today in our hour together. The very hardest part of all of this, and I have a lot of experience now dealing with artists and their finances. The hardest part is just deciding to face your money fears. The rest is really just a to-do list. So just by showing up today, you're really making a big move. You have to be kind to yourself. You also have to forgive your past self and accept where you are and just start from now. I mean, what else can you do besides beat yourself up and make yourself feel horrible, right? That's not a productive way to behave. I could do it, right? I mean, I tell the story sometimes about losing $7,000 because I didn't bother to change my address. I had these CDs, certificates of deposit at a bank in Boston. And I moved in with my boyfriend and I did not bother to change my mailing address. Well, those CDs, the bank lost track of me. The bank got bought by another bank. And what do you know? Here we are 20 years later, several bank mergers later, and that money is somewhere in collections, you know, in unclaimed funds in Massachusetts, and I cannot find it. So I could beat myself up for that and many, many more mistakes I made, or I can just focus on the fact that I can earn money today and I can organize starting from today. And same with you. Perfection is the enemy. I know a lot of you artists are very, very perfectionist. I myself am a reforming perfectionist and I truly understand, but I just want you to commit to improvement. So throw out perfection, just decide from now, you start now, and every time you try to do the thing just a little better. It's really about practice. The other thing is that if you believe that money is evil, you will remain broke. That is a sad fact. If you accept money as a tool, and if you believe in your work, and I believe in your work, then money is just fuel or a tool that you can use to amplify your work. And I'm telling you, I believe in what you do as artists. So I think that's really important. Now, let's talk about why this matters. Why do I care? Why do I spend so much time teaching artists how to have money? Why does it matter? Well, I like to use Black women as kind of a canary in the coal mine. Of course, the statistics can even be worse for Latinx women and femmes and indigenous women. So just know that this is just one group for purposes of time. But Black women earn 62 cents on the dollar that a white man earns. White women, it's 80 cents. So there's a real racial pay gap. And there's also an enormous racial wealth gap, which is even a whole other issue. And yet Black women are more likely to be the breadwinner of their family than a white woman. And they're also the most educated group in the United States. Also the largest per capita book buyers in the United States. So I just see between those statistics, that feels really awful, because what you're seeing is someone who is highly educated, someone who is supporting others, and someone who is not being paid their fair share. So basically, who has the money in this country, and who should have the money? Who would I rather have the money? Who is doing good things with their money? So here's some other statistics about kind of who has money and who has power. Women make up only 22% of parliamentarian seats, 8% of the world's executives. 95% of the countries in the world have a male head of state. And yet, when women and femmes have power and have money, look what they do with it. Female CEOs focus their businesses more than male CEOs on sustainability. When women are included in the peace process, agreements are 35% more likely to last at least 15 years. That's incredible. When girls and women spend their money, they spend 90% of it on their families. That means their children, their aging parents, means their community. Men, by contrast, spend 30 to 40% of their money on their families. I'm not saying men are evil, but I'm just saying, look who does not have money or power, look at the distribution, and I care a lot about correcting it. To just put it a little bit more succinctly, fuck the patriarchy. That's my mission. Fuck the racist, heteronormative patriarchy. And so that's why I do what I do. And let's just say a word about artists. I mean, artists are doing the empathy work that builds connection, builds community, bridges divides in our world, right? I believe in what artists do. I've been a working artist for 17 years. I love being an artist because I love other artists. So when artists have money, when artists have power, when it's the empathy builders who have money, can you picture the world we will have when that is the case? So this is a vision that really excites me. So that is, in a nutshell, that is my why. That is why I give a shit about all of this. So let's jump in. I want to teach you some things. This is where you get out your roadmap. This guy, you can draw it. If you missed this, it's okay. You can just hand draw it as I'm going to do. Okay, so I'm going to, there it is. That's what the roadmap looks like in color. And I'm going to draw it out for you. And I'm going to switch my screen. I'm going to stop my share here and switch my screen so that you can just see me and my whiteboard. Whoa. Okay. Okay. Can you all see me really big now? Just put a little thing in the, okay. Can you see me nice and big? Okay, good. By the way, I have nothing against men. I'm married to a man. My father is a man. I have lots of white men who I love in my life. Some of my best friends are white men. I'm just saying, you know, the distribution is not where it should be. All right, so let's talk about this framework here. All right. Okay, so what I want to talk about is how you go from here to here. And I'm going to talk about the steps along the way here. So this is the money revolution framework. Okay, cool. So I'm going to divide that out. Okay. Trying to take my own medicine and not be a perfectionist drawing this. Okay, so it starts over here with belief. You have to believe, and we're going to talk about what all of these things mean. But this is your path, and we're heading up. So believe, understand, organize, plan, maximize. Now we're getting juicy up here. And this one is grow. That's the good stuff. Okay. Okay, so let's start at belief. Okay, first down here, we've got habits. Habits are super important because habits take the effort out. Habits are magical. It's a super unsexy word for a super sexy thing. It's how you make something be automatic, where you don't negotiate with yourself anymore. I'll give you just a little example. I have developed a habit for myself through lots of reading and, maximizing whatever, where I put my walk-in clothes in the bathroom at night. So when I wake up in the morning, I sort of, sleepily stumble into my workout clothes. Well, then at that point, it's pretty easy to just walk out the door and go for a walk. So I basically go for a walk every single morning because I have the habit of putting my workout clothes in the bathroom where I get dressed. So that it means that I don't negotiate with myself. I don't say, oh, it's kind of a little drizzly today. Oh, I didn't sleep that well. Oh, I just do it. And this, when you add a habit into your money, and when I, little preview, sneak peek of what this framework is it's about repeating over and over and over. So when you repeat, rinse and repeat, you keep a mantra in your head. I'm not going to be perfect. I'm just going to do it once and then improve the next time. That starts to make it so you do better and you don't have to think and negotiate with yourself every time you do something. Okay, now let's talk about mindset. Over here is self-worth and mindset. Also important. Now you can't just skip ahead to understanding. I can't just teach you about the tax code, right? That's understand, that's the next step. But you have to get through this first part first. You have to believe in your own worthiness, right? Who deserves to have money? Do you deserve to have money? Do you deserve to have power? I think you do. What do you believe about money? What do you believe about the importance of your work? Are you doing important work? If you had more money and more time and more rest, could you do more of that work? Could you make it more boldly? Could you distribute it more widely? So what you believe about money will come true, basically. I want to make a little distinction here. Like, I'm not saying that your mindset is absolutely everything. I'm not saying that you are going to end systemic racism by thinking the right thoughts. Like, please don't get me wrong, right? But you don't need to reinforce systemic racism or the patriarchy inside your head every day, right? That part you can control. And that's the part we want to be really clear exists, and we want to kick it out of the room. So I just want you to think about if you think that money is evil, or do you think that money is a tool, right? If you believe that money is evil, and a lot of people conflate that because they see who has money and they're pissed off about it and they think money is evil, instead of the people who have most of it are evil. I don't believe people are evil, but whatever, you know what I mean? So you have to think of money as a tool. So that is actually my action step number 1. You need to make a commitment to changing your belief about money. You have to actually treat it like it is not in and of itself evil, but that it is a tool that you can use to further the good work that you are doing in the world. So that's action step number 1. Commit to changing your belief about money. Money. Okay. In other words, from evil to neutral. It's just a tool. Why does this matter? If you walk into a job negotiation or a negotiation with your dealer about raising your prices and you think money is evil, do you think you will be a good advocate for yourself in that negotiation? No. And actually the statistics bear that out incredibly well. And women and femmes who do a 1-minute meditation before a salary negotiation and think about the people in their life who depend on them. You think about your children and the education you want to provide for them and what money that will cost, or the aging parents you want to care for and get some skilled nursing for. When you think about that, you do a 1-minute meditation on the people depending on you, then you walk into that negotiation. Those are the women who kill it. It is the Harvard Business Review did a study on this, so it's really cool. All right. So now we're going to get to understanding. So you have to deal with that stuff, the mind garbage. Okay. Now, understanding, you have to understand self-employment tax, the Schedule C, which is where freelancers report their income, deductions, and what is my other one? Quarterly taxes. Quarterly. Okay. So let's talk about, what do I mean? What do I mean there? I hope you can read that. I'm writing a little small. Self-employment tax. This is the #1 mistake that I see artists make in my practice where I do the taxes of artists. You need to understand that when you are self-employed, as most artists are, you pay 15.3% self-employment tax on all your profit that you earn for your self-employed business. That is on top of your income tax rate, which is anywhere from 0 to 37%. So that's a high percentage of your money that goes out the door in tax. And the only thing that brings your self-employment tax obligation down is taking deductions, deductible expenses. So knowing what those deductible expenses are and how to track them legally is critically important for artists to save money. So the other thing to understand is, so everything that you file on your Schedule C, which is how artists file our taxes, everything you put on there is subject to that self-employment tax of 15.3% in addition to your income tax rate, 2 taxes on this. Deductions, however, bring the profit down and bring your taxes down. The other thing you need to know there is that you are a business. So a key understanding to know here is to have a Schedule C, you have to be a business. You are making a tacit agreement with the IRS that you are operating a business, which is fine. It's fine, and you are. But having a business means you have a profit motive, and that's key. You don't actually have to have a profit to have a profit motive, but you do have to have a motive. You actually have to be trying to make money. So when I talk about getting this mental trash out of your head about I'm not worthy, I'm not really trying to make money, somehow trying to make money means I'm not an artist of full and complete integrity. Come on. You need it. You need a profit motive to be your protection on taxes. So it's really important. You just have to get over that terrible mindset stuff that a lot of us picked up in art school. And I did too, trust me. When you track every expense, I know that may sound boring, but when you track every expense, when you don't miss things, then you lower your self-employment tax, you lower your taxes. So something really key to understand here is that bookkeeping protects you on all fronts. It is proof of a profit motive, or one piece of proof of a profit motive. It tracks these deductions and makes it so that you do not miss them anymore. So it lowers your taxes. It also helps set you up for paying your taxes quarterly, which is another obligation that you have as a freelancer, as a creative person. If your tax bill is over $1,000, you are required by law to pay quarterly, not annually. So bookkeeping is really important because it solves all of those problems at once. So that goes up here, bookkeeping. In organizing, see, we're moving up, right? We're moving up the chain. This is beginning to get, now you've gotten past the mental trash. You've gotten to the understanding of where you're at. Now we're getting to actually pulling it together. We're starting to get a little more proactive here at this stage in this framework. Getting your bookkeeping set up helps you solve a lot of the problems you just discovered you have down here. Okay. Bookkeeping can be really simple. You don't actually need to use software for bookkeeping. You can use a spreadsheet. In fact, I spent a long time, my whole artistic life, developing a spreadsheet, which I use and I have as a part of my Money Bootcamp program, which has formulas in it, which is basically just tracks exactly to the Schedule C deduction categories, the things that artists typically spend their money on. So spreadsheet is actually perfectly fine. You don't need fancy software. Okay, so in order to do bookkeeping effectively, though, the thing you want to know, the thing you want to do is separate your business and personal bank accounts. When you do that, now suddenly you have one bank account, which becomes the basis for your bookkeeping. Now the bank statement for that business bank account has all the income coming into that business and all the expenses going out. So now you're no longer going through receipts, right? You no longer have to go through one personal mixed business account with a highlighter trying to decide if that trip to Home Depot was business or personal, right? Anybody been there? I certainly have. So that is action step number 2. Separate your business and personal bank accounts. Your business and personal bank accounts. Yeah. Cool. All right. You with me? We're getting to the better stuff. Over here on the organized front is legal and setup. Okay, so you also need to know what your local laws are and rules about setting your business entity up. Now, your tax return is your first step and you have to do that, right? There's not really much choice. But the legal stuff, there are other things. There's issues around, should you be an LLC? Should you get business insurance, terms and conditions on your website, how to protect yourself, how to protect this operation that you're running. Okay. I will give you an action step number 3 as kind of a bonus for just a deduction that people miss all the time, partly because it doesn't show up on your books. It's important to know that in taxes, we often have what's called a book tax difference. So what actually comes out of that business bank account is not perfectly aligned with what gets reported in your tax return. And that's actually normal. It's okay. So there are some things that will fall outside of these. And one of the bank account, and one of them is mileage. So action step number 3 is to get a mileage deduction, which is a huge deduction for a lot of artists. Less so in COVID when we weren't going anywhere. But my typical clients who have huge mileage expenses are like musicians who go to gigs and tour. But even artists, like going to site visits, going on supply runs, going to visit, studio visits with other artists. Those are all deductible mileage expenses. So action step number 3, record your odometer today. Record your odometer today. Okay, and download a mileage app. So you have to track your mileage in order to be able to take a mileage deduction on your taxes. However, the mileage deduction is more generous than people realize. It's 56 cents per mile for 2021. That means if I go do a 100-mile drive to visit a curator and talk about my work or an upcoming show, that's $56 right off the bat. I might do that, 20 times a year, right? Then you add in all the supply runs, all the gallerist visits, all the site visits, et cetera. It really adds up. Most of my clients get between $2,000 and $4,000 per year mileage deduction. So very important. Also, I want to recommend to you that you set an alarm for January 1st. 1 alarm. Set an alarm on your calendar, recurring every year, to record your odometer every January 1st. This is magical for two reasons. One, it gives you starting mileage for the new year, but it also gives you at the same time ending mileage for the old year. As long as you do that, you will have a total miles every single year. And now you just have to use that mileage app to track the miles you do throughout the year. So pretty cool. All right, now we're getting to plan. We're on the proactive side. This middle zone is like crossing over into proactivity. So you need a plan. Planning involves personal finance. Personal finance is another very unsexy name. I feel like I'm in the business of super unsexy names. But personal finance means you name your priorities, you track your net worth. I know that sounds scary, but you can do it. You manage your cash flow. You can have a business that looks profitable on paper where a whole lot of collectors owe you thousands of dollars for paintings you've already delivered. If you can't collect that money, your cash flow is not working right, and you can still go out of business despite the fact that your balance sheet looks great. So that's important. You want to set up the right bank accounts. There are some tricks you can use, moving money between bank accounts to hide and protect money from yourself. And you need a basic budget, which I prefer to call a freedom plan. And then you just map out what your plan is. That's what personal finance is. And then what was the other thing? And then over here, year-end tax planning. Now, I want to just take a pause for a second here. I'm going to reshare my screen to show you a client of mine who did some year-end tax planning. Okay. So this is Leandra Lasser. She is an amazing artist. Look her up, please, please. She won the art prize in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is a $200,000 prize. I mean, obviously, I'm not the only one who thinks she's an incredible artist. She came to me as part of my Money Bootcamp program, and we used year-end tax planning to save her almost $20,000 in a single year. That money would have just gone out the door in the form of taxes, right? But what we managed to do was use tax shelters, legal ones, encourage tax shelters like a solo 401k to get almost $20,000 of that into a fund, a solo 401k for her, where now that money is sitting there growing year after year with compound interest, working for her. Whereas it would have just been gone if she hadn't done the planning. Who wouldn't like $20,000 just working for you for many, many years? So that was a really big deal. That's a great example to me of the power of year-end tax planning. Okay, back to me. But anyway, check out Leandra. She's also just like a gentle soul, a really great person. All right, now this is the fun stuff. We're going to get, we are past planning, right? And now we're getting to maximizing. Okay, juicy. All right, so maximizing, we've got tax shelters. Tax shelters. I just mentioned this with Leandra. These are 401ks, IRAs, HSAs, 529s. They have really boring, unsexy names. But the cool thing about a tax shelter, I know a lot of you are like, ugh, that sounds skeezy. But no, tax shelters, legal ones, are set up as deliberate incentives in the tax code to help you set aside money for big ticket items that would be very difficult to save for. The biggie is retirement, like that's the big one. But also there are tax shelters for healthcare, for saving for your children's college education. There are some for daycare a little bit. So there are some other ones as well, but those are the biggies: retirement, healthcare, education. Okay. This is where you start feeling like some knowledge of the tax code can actually really get you more money in your pocket and get your money really working for you. And then over here we have new rules, new tax rules. holy shit, do we have a lot of new tax rules this year, 2020, 2021, the $1.9 trillion stimulus bill from Biden. It's a wonderful bill. I've never been more excited in my life about a gigantic stimulus bill, even though it represents so much work for me. But there's so much in that that gives money to struggling working Americans. So that's really, really cool. Okay. So you do need to do that to maximize. You need to basically, this is a tax rules stuff. This is where you start thinking about being savvy, kind of knowing what's going on, being hip to the new rules and how to take advantage of them, plus the old rules and how to take advantage of them. Okay, next, my last and favorite. It's got two words. One, to get to growth, I like to call it investing. And I also like to call it smashing the patriarchy. Yeah, I mean that. I want to smash the patriarchy. That is my ultimate project. So this is where I want you all to head. You have to invest. I know a lot of you, when you hear the word investing, you recoil a little bit like, ugh, that's not for me. I want you to question that impulse. Why are you thinking that? Is it because you feel that money doesn't belong with you, that it should be held in the hands of somebody more competent and mature and, you know, whatever, somebody like a white dude? I hope not, but it could be. You know, a lot of sort of racist patriarchy has taught us that we aren't good with money, right? We women, we're unreliable. We're too spendy. We're frivolous, right? That, and femmes. That is you know, one of the narratives that comes down. But actually, if you look at the statistics, women are far better investors than men statistically. I'm sorry, I don't have any transgender statistics on that, but so I am going to say women in this case, but it's real. Women are amazing investors because we are less emotional investors. And that actually makes an enormous difference in long-term gains. So do not let that narrative drive you. It is false. Okay, it's not meant to serve you. Also, socially responsible investing is how you change the world. I am not exaggerating. You can do so much. When an investor gets in, when a new investor starts, and all they want is to maximize their dollar, okay, fine. A lot of investors in the market are that. But when a new investor starts and they care about socially responsible investing, now known as ESG, environmental social governance, they create a demand in the marketplace for more funds that are ESG funds and SRI funds. They open up more options for other investors who want to invest ethically. Now, if you don't believe me, I'll give you a little example of how passionate I am about this. When I was 20 years old at Yale University, the Yale endowment is ginormous. It's billions of dollars. And Yale brags that it is an ethical investor. Well, me and another student activist spent about 3 years lobbying Yale to divest of its tobacco holdings. Tobacco holdings are in no way ethical. You just can't make that argument, right? And it took us 3 years and it was really hard work, but we won. We got Yale to divest of $22 million out of tobacco funds. That was just a couple of college kids, right? I'm not saying that was easy, but we moved $22 million. And when Yale does that, do you think Harvard listens? Do you think Princeton listens? When you do things like that, the echo, the ripple effect is enormous. So do not think for a second that the best thing to do when you care about the world is to keep your money out of the market. No, my friends, it is to put your money in the market and be loud. I just want to amen, hallelujah there. All right. Okay. So ethical investing is a real thing. Why do I care about artists having money? Because you're the ones who are going to do that, right? Awesome. So let me just give you a couple numbers for you. If you put $120 a week into just aside into savings, first of all, you'll lose some money because of inflation, but let's just say you did $120 a week. You'll get$218,000 in 35 years. Okay. Now, if you invest 120 a week, and here's my assumptions, 8% compound interest compounded annually. That is an average rate of return on the stock market. Obviously, we can't guarantee that, but it's historically true. That becomes 1 million in 35 years. These are two very different amounts of money, right? One of them is 4 times bigger, more than 4 times bigger. This is why you need to invest, because you don't really grow. You don't really fuck the patriarchy with this kind of money. You need this kind of money. Okay. If you wait 1 year to invest, this is another important thing to know. Waiting 1 year does not cost you the small amount you think it might. It costs you more, right? And here's why, because the whole beauty that's happening with this growth in the $1 million is you have what's called a growth curve, right? So you put in money. If you put in $120 a week, which breaks out to $6,000 per year, why am I choosing that number? Deliberately choosing it because $6,000 a year is your limit to put into a traditional or Roth IRA, okay? So keep that in mind. So if you put in $120 a year, you're going to have this little slow, gentle, flat growth line, okay? But if you invest it and you're putting money in, you get a curve. Now, my friends, over here, that's not the fun part of the curve, right? This early part, right? This is the fun part. That's where your money is doubling, tripling, right? Having a ton of capital in the market is what brings you more capital. That's why we live in what is called a capitalist society. So you need to get your capital in, right? So when you wait 1 year to put that $6,000 to max out your IRA, you're not going to miss this first year. You have to wait that first year. You have to wait that shitty year. What you miss when you wait is you miss that last year where your growth goes from there to there. So just to illustrate that for you, this in a growth curve over a 40-year period, this last year of this $120 per week, that last year, the growth is $130,347. That is what you lose when you wait 1 year to invest. This is why now is actually really important. This is why I get excited about 20-year-olds, about college graduates, because I'm like, your timeline is so sexy. $120 and you were a millionaire in just 35 years. In 40 years, multimillionaire. Okay, I get really jazzed. That's my favorite part, as you can tell. All right, so action step number 4. Can you see my screen? I'm not sure. Okay. All right, so action step number 4, auto draft, name it with me, $120 a week into an IRA. Okay, if you do that, I showed you the numbers, right? You saw what that does. In 35 years, you'll be a millionaire. Now, anytime I talk about numbers, some of you are going to be like, that's easy. Some of you are going to be like, ugh, that's way too much money. I can't. So I understand that. Don't worry if you don't have $120 a week now. Actually, the most important thing is to set up the infrastructure. If you can afford $5 a week, auto draft $5 a week, $3, $2, really, because what's important is you set up the pipeline so that when you get a raise in 6 months, a year, 3 years, the pipeline is already going and all you need to do is turn it up, okay? We're getting back to this guy, habits. Set that habit in place, like putting your sneakers in your bathroom, so that when the money comes in, you can turn up the spigot. That's how you take the effort out of it. You can do the work now, even if you're broke now, and get ready for your success later in life. Okay. I get so excited there, guys. I love this. I love envisioning artists getting in there, being really loud activist shareholders, changing the world, getting out of petrochemicals, investing money in BIPOC-owned businesses. This is a real world that we can have. All right. So I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, here's Leandra again. Okay, so that is my framework. You just learned my framework to get power over your money. From organizing the chaos to developing a habit, right? Taking the brain work out of it, of money management and creating a personal financial plan, to growing your wealth using tax shelters, year-end planning, and investing. And I previewed this for you a little bit, but the whole magic in this, whoops, I almost erased believe. That's not good. Okay, the whole magic is that this repeats every single year. All of these things, you have to come back to mindset work. When you make it to a new level, you will start doubting yourself again, and you have to work on that stuff again. It happens to me, it happens to all of us, right? Your taxes, right? April 15th comes every year, right? Year-end tax planning happens before December 31st every single year. You have to keep doing that. You have every single year. So the habit is really important. The mindset is really important. Being organized, having the knowledge, planning, maximizing, and growing. So let's just recap our action steps. You're going to commit to changing your belief about money. Is it evil? Or is it just the person holding it who might be evil? Is it actually just an amplifier of me, whatever me is? Are you good? Are you bad? Money's just a tool. 2, separate your business and personal bank accounts. 3, record your odometer. Set an alarm for every single, sorry, I'm moving something. Set your alarm for every January 1st to track your odometer, and auto draft $120 a week or $5 or $3 into an IRA. Okay. These things are super awesome because they are meant and built to get you unblocked, to set you up for easier bookkeeping and getting all your deductions. You'll get a huge deduction with the mileage right now. Also, I have taught you how to become a millionaire. I hope you appreciate that. But the pathway you've learned is the best part, because the path is the one that will get you out of fear and inaction and self-worth issues into making money amplify the good that you are already doing in the world. So I'm not sure what made you show up today. Maybe you have serious anxiety or shame related to your money, and that is okay. And you're ready to take action. Maybe if you're just curious what an artist accountant looks like if I'm, really a real person. You can actually get started on this pathway right now. There's a system. You don't have to do all of it alone. There's a system that will change your life. You can move out of scarcity-based money decisions and into control. When you shift into power over your money, it changes your life. And as I've demonstrated, I hope successfully, it changes other people's lives. It will actually change the world, and it will expand the reach and the impact of your art. Money is going to have an enormous role in your life, no matter what you do, whether you like it or not. So is it going to drive you into self-sabotaging behavior, or is it going to propel you forward and amplify the impact of the important creative work you're doing in the world? You do have a choice. You can do this in the slow way, which I did, by reading the Internal Revenue Code, reading tax books, reading about legal setup, meeting with lawyers and accountants, reading books about investing, small business, personal finance, and piecing together the parts you need, trying to pull out the parts that are meant and geared for a creative person. It took me 10 years to do that. Plus, I had to go back to school for accounting. Or you can join me in my program, Money Bootcamp, for exactly the parts you need and have your money on track by this time next year. So what's Money Bootcamp? Money Bootcamp is an annual membership for creators. So that is artists, that is you, to get you set up right and tracking all the right things without wasting your time. It builds comprehensive financial savvy and the habits to sustain it the habits to take the effort out of it so that you can live a sustainable life, have more money, and get back to your work. So what is Money Bootcamp? It's a comprehensive 1-year tax and financial education membership specifically for creators that puts you into action. It's not passive. It will not sit on your shelf. Everything in it is created to get you from overwhelm into focus and concrete action steps and sustainable money habits that will serve you for your whole lifetime. There are 12 in-depth self-paced trainings that cover a full range of tax and financial information. And I will give you a hint, they follow this framework. They start here, they go here, then here, then here. They go all the way up into smashing the patriarchy. So there's a training on tax shelters, 401ks, HSAs, 529s. Artist deductions, legal and tax setup, which I co-teach with a lawyer and arts attorney, investing to grow your wealth, which is geared towards simplifying your plan for personal investing. And it's co-taught with a broker, Jackie, who is actually a tax preparer here at Sunlight Tax. Is also a licensed stockbroker. And we teach you about socially responsible investing, which is how you change the world. There are live group work sessions to build your money management muscles and live presentations focused on artist-specific tax and money concerns. There's my simple spreadsheet bookkeeping workbook. I mentioned it earlier. It's that spreadsheet system with tabs and formulas that goes right to the Schedule C categories that I built over my lifetime as a working artist. So you get that when you join Money Bootcamp. There's also a training on how to get set up with QuickBooks Self-Employed, because some people will want software and some people will want a simple spreadsheet. It's your choice. I do have a lot of things built into that spreadsheet, like finding your maximum IRA deduction. I have home office formulas to calculate so you can see what that is. So there's a lot of little ninja tricks I've built into that over many, many years. There's also monthly checklists with action steps for accountability, and also that you get every single month to keep you on track, and SMART goal check-ins for accountability. So just imagine knowing how much you owe in tax before you owe it, so you can plan, adjust, and feel calm. Imagine planning a big year-end equipment investment that lowers your taxes. Imagine looking over your books and your investments, snapping your laptop shut, and going to a laser-focused studio session because your books are organized, because you're on track with your investment plan, and all that headspace of vague dread and fear is over. Imagine feeling seen and valued for the work that you do, being able to focus on your impact on the world because you've got the system in place that you need to stop worrying all the time about your money. When you join Money Bootcamp, you get immediate access to the simple spreadsheet bookkeeping workbook and all of the self-paced training. So you can just jump right in. And there's a roadmap that leads you through the order to go. Plus, every month you have a live group session with me. Once per quarter, this is a group work session where you'll work on doing your books together with me for accountability to build your own muscle of doing your bookkeeping. These are timed for the quarterly tax deadlines, and I teach you each time how to calculate your tax payment so that this gets you right on track into a habit and into action, paying your taxes quarterly. When you do that 4 times with me through the course of a year in Money Bootcamp, you develop a habit so that you can go off on your own for the rest of your life, and that habit stays with you. That's the design. That's the brilliance of the design of it. You get a checklist every month to keep you into action. You get SMART goal check-ins to keep you accountable to yourself. And there's a private Facebook community where you can get support, share wins, share resources, set yourself some goals in public, and hold yourself accountable. And in addition, I give updates when new tax legislation is passed, so you know when there are changes that affect you. This is a really big deal. I cannot tell you how many new tax laws there have been in 2020 and 2021, and all that information stays in a repository inside Money Bootcamp that you get to access. And you are the first to know how to calculate the family leave credit because your kids were home from school, for example, or what the new healthcare expansion means for you and the fact that they opened enrollment through May 15th. Plus, as a bonus, you also get a year-end tax planning live group work session in bootcamp. So all of bootcamp includes that, either program. In addition, there's a version of bootcamp called DFY for Done For You, where I actually do your taxes as well. If you are in DFY bootcamp, you get a 30-minute one-on-one coaching session with me, a guaranteed spot on my tax calendar, plus your 2020 taxes done. This includes me doing a tax projection for you, setting up estimated quarterly payments for you, personalized IRA guidance, and guidance on your losses in your Schedule C. It also includes your spouse if you're married filing joint, because doing your taxes means the whole family unit. And I would be remiss to not tell you that Money Bootcamp is fully tax deductible. So the cost of it is totally deductible for your art business, so long as you have a profit motive. So how much does it cost? Well, if you hired me at my normal rate, which I do keep low, but it's $150 per hour to teach you 12 in-depth trainings, spend the live work session times with you and answer your questions for an hour every month, that will cost you over $6,000. If you hired an arts attorney, a licensed stockbroker, a certified financial planner, and a tax expert who specializes in the arts, you'd still need to spend a lot of your time figuring out what you need, and that will cost you at least $10,000. So doing it one-on-one would cost you somewhere between $6,000 and $10,000, but Money Bootcamp is yours for only $950. Or if you want the with taxes version, it's $2,100. So it's $950 to join the Money Bootcamp program, where you get all of this education and those live sessions. You can do it for $95 per month on a 12-month payment plan. Or if you do the full version with your taxes, then it's $2,100. So you can actually start today for only $95. You can actually change your financial outlook completely. So these are the various bonuses that you get as well. You get SMART goal check-ins. These are coming this summer. You set goals for yourself and I check in with you about your goals. Private Facebook community, recordings of all the presentations so you never have to worry about missing them, access to all the trainings while you're a member, and you get a coaching session if you're in DFY, the Done For You with Taxes membership version. So here are some people who have been in Money Bootcamp and what has happened for them. This is Shannon Kiley. She's a singer-songwriter. Her band is called Olive Tiger, and she is a traveling, a touring musician. So a lot of times she would miss bills, she would miss letters from the IRS, and she had no system in place, right? So she says here, when starting from a place where nothing is organized, it feels like too mountainous a task. She was sort of a classic avoider, right? She had avoided it for years until it was so bad she couldn't function anymore. So she joined Money Bootcamp. She said, I like the no shame approach. You've been really good about repeating. It's just one step at a time. Shannon got really good results. She set up quarterly tax payments. She fixed her withholding. She got a mileage tracking system in place so she never missed another mile. She got QuickBooks set up for herself. And for the first time, she filed her taxes on time. And the next year got a huge refund because she was no longer behind on her estimated tax payments. She was ahead. We planned it. So she said, I've got the tools that I need now. For creative people, it's so valuable to have a person that gets you, who cares about your finances and is actually cheering for you. I think you can tell that I am. I was looking at my QuickBooks and I realized things are logged and I feel more on top of it now. That was the moment I was like, wow, this was 100% worth it. This is Victor Alvarez. He is such a cool guy. And like I said, I get really excited when young people join Money Bootcamp because they have such a long trajectory for that investing piece. Victor graduated from Brown University very recently, and he had grown up with a single mom who was an immigrant. And, you know, they kind of lived a hand-to-mouth existence. He had no financial training. And he really wanted to start his career on a good foot. With the right knowledge and systems. So he was really proud of the fact that he mastered bookkeeping because he felt so intimidated by it. And like I said, in bootcamp, we go really step by step, very deliberately, slowly, and we just build that muscle. We practice using it. I love that bootcamp is truly holistic. You don't just learn how to track how much you'll owe for taxes, but you learn how to manage your books, develop a savings and retirement plan, and take advantage of all the benefits possible along the way. This is Armenia. She's a healer and a witch. I actually have quite a few sort of soul-centered entrepreneurs, healers in bootcamp, because I think it's a group that identifies with the arts and with having your career also really be your identity, right? So Armenia, what I noticed about her is that after a couple months in bootcamp, her website suddenly became glorious. And I was like, oh my God, I was talking to her as I was doing her taxes. And I was like, you just did this major website revamp. You have all this beautiful photography on it, all this new copy. You've worked on your branding. It just looks so amazing. And it had been kind of janky before. And she was like, yeah, because once I kind of got the systems under control, and it only took me a couple of months to kind of really get it together, suddenly it freed up all this time. I had just spent all this time stressing. And now that I have these habits, it just doesn't take as much time to manage my money. So this is just to recap what you get in bootcamp. You get immediate access to this whole framework of training, starting at the bottom and going all the way up to smashing the patriarchy. You get my simple spreadsheet bookkeeping workbook as well, plus a training on QuickBooks if you want to get set up on software. Every month, a live group session with me. Once per quarter, a group work session where you do your books, and it's timed before the quarterly tax deadlines to help you make those payments at the correct amount on time. Checklist to get you into actions, SMART goal check-ins, private Facebook group. Plus you have guaranteed tax updates whenever new legislation is passed. And believe me, there is more legislation that's going to be passed in Biden's first 100 days. Plus you get a year-end tax work session, live work session where I teach you how to make a roadmap for yourself for tax planning. And in addition, I don't have a lot of spots left for tax filing. I'm only taking people on extension if you want to do your taxes with me. So we can do your 2020 taxes. I'll file an extension for you and we'll actually do the tax return in September. That's important for you to know. It really helps me to know who is on board. So and to know that early on, because as you know, we're midway through the tax season right now. So if you join by tomorrow at 5 p.m., I do have a 24-hour bonus, which is a new home office, home studio deduction course, because a lot of us moved from studios that were outside the home to inside the home because of the pandemic. So that is a bonus for you. And also a PDF, top 5 things you can do right now to save money this year to get you started right away. So these are the things that are in bootcamp. I'm not going to go through that again. You can join now at sunlighttax.com/moneybootcamp. Those bonuses, the home office deduction and the simple PDF to get you started right away, those are in effect for 24 hours if you join by 5 p.m. tomorrow. So go ahead to sunlighttax.com/moneybootcamp to join. And this time next year, you can be in a much better and different place with your money than you are right at this moment. I'm going to say one word of thanks to all of you. And then I'm going to open this up for questions. So feel free to put your questions in the Q&A. I want to say to you that in this moment in our history as a country, it feels to me so dangerous and scary. It feels like we have forgotten how to talk to each other. We have forgotten how to have empathy for one another. And what I want to say is that I think the solution to that division is creative people, because we are the empathy builders of our culture. The work that you do is so important. We are the ones who create empathy. We show other people how to view the world from somebody else's perspective. We bridge divides. We sound the warnings when things are going badly in our culture. And we're also the visionaries who show the world what better world is possible. So from the bottom of my heart, I just want to tell you that what you do is so important. And I care so much about you having more money and more power to do more of that work. So thank you so, so much. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate you. I'm really honored to spend an hour with you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to leave this screen up. Go ahead and join sunlighttax.com/moneybootcamp to join. And I am going to bring up my Q&A and take some questions right now. Oh, I'm having trouble accessing the Q&A here. Let's see. I might have to stop sharing. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Oh, it's so nice to see you all. All right. So Money Bootcamp is at sunlighttax.com/moneybootcamp. So I'm going to stay on for about 20 minutes and I'm going to answer some questions here. Okay. Question from Allison. I received a PPP loan in 2020, but I just now, March 2021, have applied for forgiveness, waited for my lender to invite me to apply. How do I account for this, if at all, in my 2020 taxes? Well, taxes are annual year, so you really aren't going to account for it yet. You're going to account for it in 2021. The fact of the matter is a loan is not taxable income. So it isn't going to be reported as income for your 2020 taxes, if that's the question. I will tell you that a forgiven loan is taxable income. That would impact your 2021 taxes. However, there is legislation that says forgiven PPP loans are not going to be treated as taxable income. So you're actually in pretty good position on that. Allie says, are dance commissions subject to self-employment tax or grant money? And the answer, Allie, is yes, they absolutely are. I know that's not maybe what you want to hear, but the other thing is that you probably have expenses, right? You're probably deducting expenses against that grant money. So you only are going to owe self-employment tax on and income tax on the profit, right? On your profit margin. Okay. A is asking me, how do you know if you should have an LLC or sole proprietorship as an artist? Well, an LLC, this is, by the way, this is a thing that we cover really extensively in the legal and tax setup module in Money Bootcamp with Catherine DeVos Devine, who is an arts attorney, and with me. An LLC is something you get for liability purposes. It actually has no bearing on your taxes whatsoever. You default into being a sole proprietorship. You are one now. If you've done nothing, you already are a sole proprietorship. There are some legal and tax things you do need to do to set up, to register your business locally, and certainly for liability with the LLC. And again, Money Bootcamp, we get into all kinds of that. Okay. Emma says, do you actually have to register for a business ID and all that? My bank won't let me set up an account without a business ID, but I'm wondering if I could just open it at a different bank. Banks will vary on their requirements for setting up a business account. For your bookkeeping purposes, for the real thing that matters is actually just the fact that you set up a separate account. So you can actually open a second personal account technically personal bank account, but just use it as your business bank account. And that is okay. And that will do most of what you need for bookkeeping. Your local rules are going to vary. This is a national audience here, so I can't speak to your specific locale. Again, in bootcamp, we talk about a checklist for checking the rules in your local area and how to be sure you're set up right to obey your local laws. So that's important. Emma, again, let's see, I'm going to say that I've answered that. So Emma again is asking a question. What should people do for mileage that don't have a car? Well, you don't get to take mileage without a car. It's pretty cut and dried. If you use Ubers or Lyfts or, ride sharing taxis, then just the cost of the taxi or the cost of the Lyft ride is a deductible expense for your art transport. So that is fine. Lindsay is saying, any recommendations for a mileage app? Yes, the one I use personally is called Mile IQ. I like it. It works. You basically, it notices when your phone is moving over 5 miles per hour. So it automatically logs any movement at that pace. So it basically knows when you're in a car that's moving. And then you just go through, weekly, monthly, depending on how many miles you put on your vehicle, and you just like swipe right, swipe left to categorize business or non-business. It also captures some other things like charitable miles and medical miles, which actually there is a small deduction for as well. So it's great. It's really great. Okay. Tegan, are there resources for how to write a business plan? That is a really great question. Writing a business plan can actually be proof of your profit motive for the IRS. So it's a really great thing to do. I don't teach that specifically in Money Bootcamp because what I really keep focused on is the scary stuff that other people won't touch. So there are a million like art coaching programs and art coaches that can help you write a business plan. In fact, I'm happy to recommend some. If you want to contact me over on Instagram, I'll send you the profiles of a bunch of them because a bunch of them follow me. Erica Ando is one I can recommend. Yeah, anyway. Okay. Krista is saying, out of curiosity, why is there a self-employment tax? They make it quite painful for us, it seems. I do get that feeling. The purpose of self-employment tax is to pay for Social Security and Medicare. That is how freelancers and sole proprietors pay into the system that every employee pays, Social Security and Medicare. So it's for every American worker to be paying money towards your eventual retirement and your eventual medical care that come after you are employed, which makes sense because when we have job-based insurance and healthcare, you need something after those end, right? Now, when you're an employee, you only pay 1/2 of self-employment tax. You pay 7.65%, and your employer pays the other half in the form of payroll tax. When you're self-employed, you are the employer. So you pay both the employee half and the employer half, which is why it's 2 times 7.65% equals 15.3. That's what self-employment tax is. It's actually exactly the same as employees. It's just you also pay the employer half. That's why it feels so heavy and so burdensome. It's also part of the reason why we get deductions. We get to deduct expenses as freelancers. Just to remind you, employees cannot deduct expenses at all. So you do have this additional benefit that can lower your self-employment tax. Okay. What are some recs for very easy to learn bookkeeping software or systems? You know what my answer is going to be, right? I mean, I teach it in Money Bootcamp, and I don't just teach the principles behind it, why you need it, how it helps you, but also I have these practice sessions where you actually show up and you sit there and you do it in a way where you are with me and can ask a question if you get stuck. So I think Money Bootcamp, the design of it is to get you set up on bookkeeping. Again, that's super not sexy, but it really helps you. Okay, Emma asks, Do we get taxed on our stimulus checks? Great answer for you. No, you do not. The stimulus checks are tax-free. It's just free money for you. You don't have to report it. I do recommend actually noting how much it is and when you got the payments though, because if you didn't get the full amount that you were entitled to, you actually can get it as a credit on your next tax return. So do note if you got them, not because you're going to be taxed on them, but because if you didn't get the full amount that you're entitled to, you might be able to get more with your next tax return. All right. Jules says, do you recommend always maxing out the $6,000 allotted for a Roth IRA every year? Yes, definitely. Definitely. I will tell you that that is kind of a baseline. That's a good baseline. I would keep that as a goal. There are options. There are additional things that a freelancer has access to, such as a solo 401k or a SEP IRA, where there are actually a much higher limit that you can put money in tax-free. And I talk all about them in the tax shelters module of bootcamp, of course, because I actually think it's, you may be able to put up to 20% of your self-employed income into a SEP IRA, for example. So there are even better options available to you. But as a baseline, yes, I do recommend at least maxing out your Roth or traditional IRA every year. Okay. Lynn says, can we set tax shelters up ourselves or do we need a CPA to help with that? Actually, yeah, you can do it yourself. And it's not a CPA, or I'm not a CPA, I'm an enrolled agent. That's a tax expert. My license is through the IRS. So yeah, you do not need an EA or a CPA to do that for you. You actually set those things up, your Roth or traditional IRA, your SEP IRA, you set them up traditionally through a brokerage. So that would be like a Fidelity, Vanguard, Charles Schwab, JP Morgan Chase. Brokerages are where you set it up. And you actually just report what you've done to your tax preparer or on your tax software. Okay. If you don't want to wait 40 years for the IRA money boom that'll give us millions, does that just mean we put a big chunk in the beginning? Well, feel free to put as big a chunk as you want. In the beginning, you have, if you want it to be a tax sheltered chunk, which grows faster, then you have to be very careful about the rules about tax shelters. Now, like I showed you with Leandra, where we used a tax shelter and managed to save her about $19,000. We're using some more sophisticated things like a solo 401k, and we're not just doing the employee contribution, we're doing the employer contribution portion. It's called an elective deferral. So there are definite options. If you happen to have a huge chunk of money and you're generating income in your creative practice, you have good options for tax shelters to put that money in. And yes, front load it, absolutely. Okay. Jules says, are there any ETFs that are, ETFs that are currently investing in ethical brands, et cetera, that you recommend using our Roth to invest in, like ARKK? I don't know that one. So Jules, in bootcamp, in my investing module, I have a really extensive outline, 13-page outline, where I give a lot of guidance about places to go to source your ethical investing. Open Invest is a really good one. That one I can name right now. So Open Invest is one that I recommend. A lot of places will have a few SRI or ethical investment options, like Fidelity will have a couple funds, TIAA Craft will have a couple funds. But a place like Open Invest will have much more robust options. So it does take a little bit of research, but that's kind of a good place to start. Yeah, it's a whole world. Trust me, if you want to go down a rabbit hole on that, you definitely can. Oh man, there are so many questions. Whew, I'm getting tired. Okay. Okay, Krista, I'm gonna be here for about 5 more minutes, y'all. Okay. Did the tax deadline for 2020 change? Krista, yes, it did. The federal tax deadline moved to May 17th. Yeah, so your federal taxes are due then. You will know, if you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen that yesterday I posted about the estimated quarterly tax deadline did not move. Those actually are still due on April 15th. So that's a little scary. But yes, the federal tax deadline has changed, and most of the states updated their deadlines, but not all of them. I did put a list. I have a running list on my tax tips highlight in Instagram, so you can check there to see. Nancy says, if you participate in Money Bootcamp, are you able to avoid using TurboTax? Well, it depends. I mean, if you do the DFY and you have Sunlight Tax prepare your taxes, then yes, of course, you do avoid using TurboTax. I don't necessarily recommend, I mean, I always want you to be using software. It's perfectly fine to do your taxes on your own. And of course, when you have all this knowledge, you can do them so much better. I actually think TurboTax is a pretty good program, but you know, of course, I hate Intuit that owns it. I think it's a terrible, they lobby to keep US tax code complicated. You know, they're very corrupt, but it's a good software. It's generally friendly. It doesn't give you a lot of insight into what it's doing on your taxes. So I think pairing it with something like Money Bootcamp, where you get the insight, you get the understanding, helps, because then you know what TurboTax is doing. The problem with TurboTax is it kind of operates like a black box. Okay. Let's see. Anonymous says, I'm several years behind in filing my taxes. Any tips on addressing back taxes? Any stories of similar people in similar circumstances your bootcamp has helped? Actually, yes. Back taxes is one of my favorite things. The reason is that with back taxes, it's a problem that causes massive anxiety and sleeplessness that you can just solve. That's what's so wonderful about it. So I do actually a lot of back taxes. The way that I structure it in bootcamp is you join the DFY with taxes version. We start with your current year of taxes, get that in on time, and then we work backwards. So we do 2019, 2018, 2017, as far as you need to go. And I charge for the individual tax return at that point. You're not buying a year of bootcamp for each one, but just the cost of the tax return. I've had many clients. I'm currently doing a whole bunch of people who have back taxes. Generally, back taxes happen because of a trauma. I mean, I have a lot of empathy for that. I've had people in bootcamp who have said to me, and in fact, it's one of the most gratifying things that I do, because I can tell that I'm working someone through a trauma, right? And I take a lot of care with that, and I understand the responsibility. So I had someone who thanked me for being gentle with him with his back taxes. And he told me later, after we were through them, that he actually had been struggling with addiction and that he was in rehab, and he like really needed a little extra time to get his materials together, and was very grateful that I had granted it to him, because he was in rehab, and it was like, it really would have been unhealthy for me to go leave and like have to get this together at that moment. So, you know, there's always a story. I've had a lot of people get back tax situations because of a divorce, like a really messy divorce. And so, yeah, it happens to people. But the thing is that, you know, it's just a to-do list. You can get out of it. So absolutely. If you have that situation, I definitely want you to note that as you join, or send me an email, and we will get you set up with this year's taxes. And then we will get you on the calendar for the other years for sure. Okay. In the years following bootcamp, are we kept in the loop about new tax laws? Well, that's a really good thing. Yeah, if you have to leave, y'all, thank you so much for joining. Remember, you can join Money Bootcamp at sunlighttax.com/Money Bootcamp. I really, really appreciate all of you. Thank you for spending your time with me. So let me see, I'm still going to answer a couple more questions. So it's an ongoing membership program. You are in it for the year while your membership is active. If you pay in full, it's good for a year. If you're on the payment plan, it's, you know, you're committed for a year. You sign a contract that is for a year. And And you do need to stay in it to get, future updates. You don't get lifetime access for, 1 year. But so I do have a grandfathered rate that when, after you've joined for the first year's price, the price drops in subsequent years. So it's more like just a simple membership program. It's not like the whole thing. So that's how it works. Okay. I'm going to take one more question and then I'm going to go have a little lunch and a breather. Emily asks, could this program also be for those who have more experience and feel comfortable in QuickBooks, already have a CPA and lawyer? I want to learn more about investing and future planning. Absolutely. Yes, that is totally, totally fine. You may not need some of the nuts and bolts stuff, although I find because we do not give a basic tax education in this country, most people don't know even the basics of tax law. So you certainly will gain a lot out of it. I think even from the legal session, it can be really helpful to see kind of what steps you should take. And the fact that you then have a lawyer who you can go to implement some of those things is great. Just puts you in a better position. Occasionally someone will tell me that they know everything already, and that's great. I mean, good for you if that's the case. I don't generally find that that is the case with most people, but it's totally fine. If you've already set up bookkeeping, you can use the work sessions to just, hold yourself accountable and set a date on your calendar to be doing it. I don't know if you're comfortable calculating your estimates. I certainly teach you how to do that. But yeah, the investing, the tax shelters, how to use that stuff is very valuable. Plus the legislative updates, which you get in boot camp. So I think it's got a lot to offer. All right, one more question and then I'm going to go. So someone is asking me with taxes bootcamp, can the tax filing be for 2021? I am at the moment booking for 2020. I haven't set up my 2021 season yet. So what I recommend you do is you just join bootcamp and then drop to the ongoing membership level to stay eligible for a tax space for 2021. That's how I would recommend doing that. Okay. Oh, I love Rhiannon. Thank you for that lovely comment. I want in for the whole process. That's great. Oh, cool. Rhiannon and Karen, welcome. I'm so glad to see that you've joined. I'm really, really excited for you guys. Welcome to Money Bootcamp. Okay, cool. So thank you again so much, everybody, for joining me today. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you staying with me. I hope that you stay well in this world and good luck with everything in this next couple of months. Take care. Bye.